Wow.
Yes, you do.
We have to vote on that. Somebody second that?
Let's put it this way. There's one good-looking person on this side of the table and two that aren't.
Oh,
No, two that aren't this way.
yeah, nice try.
I think you're only allowed to throw yourself under the bus.
I've known Sue for a very long time. God,
You can't, she's too young for you to know for a long time.
Well, so we've lived here for coming up on 19 years. So I think I met you like pretty early on. I mean, because you're
Everywhere.
pervasive. You're everywhere in town.
19 years, huh? Wow. Scared me today when the woman filling out the mortgage application said, "How long have you lived in your house?" I said, either 70 or 71 years.
Seriously? Wow.
My parents bought the
So you
house.
can't remember.
Yeah, exactly.
Since before you were born.
No, my parents, I lived on North Street for about 2 years. And then my parents bought the house from my grandfather.
Oh, wow.
My grandfather built the little house out back where Carol, my sister, lives now, so. Like the Keogh compound, it's kind of like the Kennedy compound, just a lot less expensive and a lot smaller.
A little more concentrated.
Less maintenance. You know, less maintenance.
You don't have to hire people to mow the lawn, you know.
So have you ever had anybody who wasn't meant to join this meeting remotely?
No,
Okay,
we've never had anybody come in to this meeting.
We're just thankful to have the committee members show up, never mind others.
right. There is that.
We've had good luck that way.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I think some people just want to get together and look each other in the eye and say, hey, this is what I think. You know, rather than say, oh, okay, who's putting their hand up?
It's nice to be back in person, right?
I like it.
Well, actually, I like Zoom. I do this free business counseling with SCORE.
Yeah.
And I like the Zoom much better
Yeah.
because I would have 6 or 7 appointments. And then appointment 4 and 5 don't show and don't call. So now I'm stuck
Wherever
No,
you
in
have to
Boston.
be, right?
meeting 2 hours,
Yeah.
hoping, the next person comes this way with Zoom.
Don't show up, you don't
Go up
care,
quick,
like,
next.
missed your chance.
So you do counseling for who?
Small businesses, any
Okay.
business, but it's the SCORE organization.
That's through the school, right?
No.
No? There's a score thing that the school does too, that's like.
Senior choice of relevant experience. Yeah, that's what that says.
This is,
It's that.
Yeah.
It's what he just said.
yeah.
So different,
This
okay.
is retired executives that there's 114 offices across the country.
Just around.
Good afternoon.
Always a pleasure to see
It's a
you.
pleasure to see all of you
No,
guys.
you can't sit with your back there, you have.
Just be careful with that folder.
Over there.
You do.
Surprised you didn't hold on to that folder tight. You were a little loose on that folder. The next thing you know, the entire town will know.
It's not
what
in this
we're talking
folder,
about.
not in this folder, I don't know anything about it.
So when you were in making copies before, I forgot to ask you for an electronic version of what you're gonna share, because if people do actually. Join remotely, they're gonna need to see what you have.
Well, we could scan this.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Can I scan that?
You may. It overlaps, there are a couple of graphics in there that Steve put together, so it's a little bit of everything, I mean, it's not like one document, it's like, it's an email and that was an email, that's why.
Sure, no, I'll
That's
scan,
fine.
I'll
We can do
scan
that.
this and, do you happen to know, is Jeff gonna be presenting anything?
Haven't heard, have you heard?
I didn't see him. come on today.
He's usually like, I got my notes and I've got things in my head kind of guy, so. I think-
You're right,
I think I'd be surprised if he shows up with something that he wants to like present.
Sure.
But I'm gonna scan this and I'll be right back.
He's good. He has a lot going on up there. Get a lot of experience up there.
Hmm.
Uh,
One last one.
No, I'm set.
No,
I'm set. We need some food. We just go down to Park and Rec office. They always have some.
yes, they do. This is the clerk's office.
That's the clerk's office. And then if you go to the Board of Health, they usually have those little peppermint patties.
Oh, the York peppermint
Yeah,
patties?
those are bad.
Thank you for,
They really taste good, but they're bad.
thank you for informing me.
Yeah, that's that little, either in a little covered dish. And what they do is they have those dishes that when you put the top back down, it makes a noise. So they know.
So they know somebody's,
It clinks. They know someone's.
It's like a mousetrap.
They know someone's in there.
So if it clicks 2 or 3 times in a row, you're in trouble,
You get your finger stuck in there.
or one wasn't enough.
Yeah,
So let's see, so Steve, I think is gonna be here, right?
yeah,
And Jeff and who else?
that
Is
should
it
be
the
it.
Unholy Five?
Yeah.
No, is it the Unholy Seven? What was that movie? Magnificent Seven. The
Magnificent
Unholy-
Seven.
I don't know.
It was just,
This room looks so much nicer right now, the way it's all set up and has the acoustic panels for,
Yes, it does. Now, they are fairly, I don't recognize them.
you got those and they got the ones up in the ceiling. Yeah, and the ones against the wall, so it cuts down all
Echo.
the echoes for people who were zooming in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's getting windy out there. Ugly. Temperature's great.
Mm,
But it is
till tomorrow.
going south. Was that right? Get cold tomorrow?
Yeah, the wind's gonna turn around after the front goes by today. The air in front of the front is coming up from the south and the southwest. And once the front goes through, it'll be from the northwest. So,
No, talking to Tommy just before you arrived. I think we need to be careful on how we phrase the rationale for the price increase. Maybe emergency conservation pricing. Because if you
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
say it's for a drought, we don't have a drought,
Yeah.
then, you know, that doesn't work. Just say it's for the well, and we don't have to close the well, then that doesn't work. So if it's an emergency conservation rate, and we'll give you 60 days notice prior to implementing it. I mean, it is an enterprise fund, so you can't just stash a ton of money there.
so you see, you're thinking you let the Board of Selectmen declare a water emergency and then these go into effect.
And then,
You give them whatever you think is an appropriate notice time, 60 days, 90 days. Well,
Tomorrow.
tomorrow,
yeah. No, 60, that's,
I find the
Hey.
meeting room by listening for Tom Keough's distinctive laugh.
just sitting on the side.
Well, thank you,
All right.
Mr. Jeff.
no.
If you have anything that you're
No.
planning to.
And
show
I'm not necessarily showing that up here.
We figured out it was
No,
all
I
up
just
here.
wanna scan it.
All right, it's here,
Yeah.
it's really here.
That's what I was thinking, actually, I was like, you know what, just one of the guys might have like something, you know, in his head that he'll share.
So have you ever played Santa Claus? I bet you have a billion times, right? Other than on the fire.
No, I just go being Santa Claus's elf. Santa Claus was.
I
Bill
would get-
Haverty.
I think that's hard for you to pull off. What are you talking about?
A little big elf.
Well, Marjorie calls me the world's largest elf.
Yes.
And so I just need,
Can you get to hear?
Oh, I just think he's got a good,
Screen
good
and
laugh for it.
be heard, how are you?
yes, it was Bill Haverty in town, then Dick Lysiak would go over. And then.
So I don't know if you saw my email, anybody happens to.
My fire department retired lieutenant.
If anybody happens to
So I-
connect remotely and needs to be looking at the documents that you guys are looking at. I took I scanned this.
I got sleigh bells and I sit there and I my phone, and I say, so
Just text me.
Christmas Eve, and here's something like this, and I ring the sleigh bells and oh, this. You call the house, we always try, thanks, Sue. We always try to get the.
You know,
get
Wait, but we're gonna, there,
phones to show
that's the numbers.
the incoming line.
Same methodology, but you just cut
I think yes, laws would be good.
off, saying got a better database to work
But
with.
the parents pick up the phone because the kids are young, so they say.
Looking over it a little bit and saying, okay, now how did the numbers change? They changed a little.
More clarification on your list.
Now they're probably calling from a cell phone, so the kids are.
Yeah, the average
And then they're gonna look
usage
at
number is
talking.
still pretty much the same in terms of candidate. There was some numbers that changed in terms of summer usage.
Yeah, so.
Went up because it went from 33
Yeah,
million.
that's my
39
connection.
million.
I
It's a pretty big
organized
jump.
the Santa trip around town with the
And that's all new guys,
fire
because
department and the police.
you didn't, that's not the cutoff on
Yeah,
one
but,
X, 2X or 1.25. That's all just.
And
Yeah, what I
this
was
will be the
doing was
third
picking
year
up
that Bion and I have done the,
transfers of property.
the Santa calling. Oh, the reason we started that. Yeah, Bion does them from his house in Maine. I'm doing it from Lincoln Street. Just, we have probably 15
One of our
calls to
problems.
make in
Yeah.
2 hours and 15 minutes. Some of the kids are so cute. Some of the kids, they can't.
Lava coming down that ball.
Can't get them to quiet down for the first
Slow.
5 minutes as they're just screaming Santa.
What? It's still on?
And you can hear the parents in the background. Santa's not gonna be able to hear you.
Yeah, it's like there's a stick up.
Give me your dough.
Came to the wrong place, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, there's no, it's down on the first floor.
This is not an island.
Yeah. Although they got two, right? And
Yeah,
they say, they said there's gonna be, but that is unusual to think that someone would rob a bank on an island.
It was
Reminds-
very strange, yes.
Somebody had a private boat
Story.
to get back to shore.
Reminded me, after I stopped working for the Appalachian Mountain Club, I knew some of the people who were working at what's the hut? And someone robbed one of the AMC huts. Now, remember, there's only so many
It's not a
trails,
fast
there's only so
getaway.
many trails in and so many trails out.
Not a
And you
fast
don't have a
getaway.
helicopter picking you up, and so, you know, if you have to walk 4, 5, or 6 miles to
They
get
got, they
out.
got a long time to set up,
Oh, God.
I lived in Winthrop and it was similar. When they did the prison, Deer Island Prison.
Deer Island, yeah, Deer Island used to be,
And they would escape, right? And the police would go to the Orient Heights Bridge and the Revere Causeway and sit there in their car having coffee. 'Cause
sooner or later,
Well, are we ready? I have about, according to this, about 3:02. We'll call the meeting to order. So. The main purpose of today's meeting, from my perspective, is to see about, we've talked about all different kinds of conservation rates. People have put out ideas about, you know, what do we do to get people to save water without conservation rates. And just coming in today, Peter said, you know, how do you can't set up conservation rates, maybe if they're not needed. Do we have to have the Board of Selectmen declare a water emergency for some particular reason? And then the conservation rates go into effect. So I guess the main thing here today is, well, I think I look at it as Group 1's been talking about saving water. Group 6 has been talking about saving water. It comes up in most of the overall, the big group meetings we have, the whole task force meetings. But we need to come up with some type of a recommendation that winds up going to Steve to put on the agenda for next meeting or the meeting after that to see if what everybody thinks about it, because the time is getting shorter till the end. I mean, it's not ready to be over, but I think we should try to get some recommendations for our task force to get to the Board of Selectmen. So is there anyone who disagrees with that to start with?
no,
Okay, all right. Oh, we're on a roll. All right. So who would like to start with some ideas?
well, I maybe
Yeah.
pose the first question. It's based on a comment that you just made a minute ago. And it's the idea of conservation, which I think we have to decide, is conservation an objective that we want right from the get-go? How do we get people to conserve right now? I'm not identifying who or what or how many or anything, but is the idea to modify behavior right now? And so that, you know, for any of a number of reasons, certainly, ecology, wetlands can have more water and, you know, there are more of these drought events that seem to be happening more frequently. And while the last one wasn't a big problem for us, they could be at any point in time. And the fact is that water costs money. If you conserve, that's less water we gotta purify, it's less water we gotta pump, it's less of everything.
Well, I think we
But-
are revenue positive by pumping water, aren't we? We pump less, don't we have less money?
Well, now it's interesting you bring that up, and I had a chat with Chuck today, and I said, okay, we had this drought. Whenever you declare a drought, that's a double-edged sword. In that you get people to conserve water, but now you wind up with less revenue. How is that revenue going to affect you? The revenue loss going to affect you this year? He says, this is going to be a problem.
They're finding out right now because water bills are
They're
due in
going
the
out.
middle of this month.
That's right. And
People have them now, they're due the 15th of this month.
And we have, in recent years, the budget has been positive, within 50,000, 100,000, it's about 1.5 million. But he says he expects that they lost a couple of $100,000 in this drought.
Hope so.
And so that's the good news, bad news
Yeah.
sort of thing. He says one thing that you have to look about, and that perhaps affects our pricing a little bit, is that the people that cut back, if they cut back, are the people that are paying the highest tier cost. So you wind up being like California, which has got all of their tax revenue and capital gains, and when the market tanks, they lose a ton of money. And if you cut back in a drought here, the cutbacks are going to be at the very highest level. So if you jack up the level really high and then kind of make everything revenue neutral, and then you go into a drought and say there's a ban, you're going to lose more money than you might otherwise lose. And he thinks,
Mhm.
he's sitting there and he's saying, well, how much money are we going to lose? And it depends on the tier. And I can tell you tier one,
What happens when the enterprise fund operates at a loss for the fiscal year?
I think they just suck it up. I don't think they haven't had that experience.
You have enough balance in the enterprise.
That's
fund.
correct.
Yeah.
And it's
So
several $100,000,
So the enterprise fund can run a surplus called a reserve.
which is $500,000 right now.
Okay,
Okay.
so problem is solved.
Yeah,
For a year or two.
unless the
No, we
extremes.
just put it so that
Yes.
every year it generates 120% of cost. And that 20% goes into reserves. We recommend that, I'm making these numbers up.
I see.
Recommend that reserve.
Well, they're not far off.
Be used for new water meters, to subsidize the capital costs, or other technology enhancements and programs. For conservation, and in a drought, be used to subsidize.
How about fixing the rest of the water pipes? Seems like
They-
it's huge.
And that comes out of the capital. budget.
That
That's
comes out,
capital.
yeah,
I
that's,
don't know about the water meters, but definitely the pipes are
but it's $448,000 right now. But that
the
number,
balance is,
in the reserve.
okay.
but
But
that
you
number.
figured, we figured we lost the difference between this billing cycle 2022 and this billing cycle 2021 is 200,000.
Yeah, he thinks he probably is gonna come up with 200,000 less revenue than he otherwise would.
I know my bill was down $7.
Okay, well,
Last year.
and of that,
And
How
my
much
wife
is-
was telling me if one of these decorative plants dies, you will too.
Yeah.
There you go.
and when I say 200,000, that's not a net figure. In other words, that's a number less than he expected to collect, but what he expected to collect was more than they expected to spend.
Right.
So maybe he's gonna lose, maybe the balance gets hit by 100,000.
So maybe the net is 100.
Is that something like that? Yeah.
I think our goal is almost what we currently have over the years, over the decades, which is plentiful water and happy citizens. I really do. I really do. I mean,
Plentiful, safe water.
Do
plentiful,
we need to debate that?
no, but I think, no, we don't need to debate it.
But
But
where
I,
you go,
we don't need to debate it, but I think we get a little bit lost, in my opinion, as to trying to charge people more, whatever else, and being worried about money when that's really our goal. And we kind of have that if we conserve reasonably. If we, why don't you think we have that?
Because we're wasting so much water.
We're wasting-
Wasting by,
Getting unallocated water, we're spewing it out in irrigation water.
that's what I mean by conserve.
Even in the 1,500 households that don't do a lot of irrigating because they don't have big lawns. We're higher per person per year
But that's what I'm
than
saying.
we should be. So we're wasting drinking water.
But they're happy.
But, come on.
Well, they may be happy, they could be happy, they could be happier.
That's what I said, though. You didn't interpret it that way.
Fine,
It's,
I'm
It's-
with you.
we have plentiful amount of water over
We do.
decades. And we
Yeah.
don't spend ridiculous amounts of money for it. And so we want to continue that. And it's going to become harder with climate change and everything else. Thus, we have to address the things that you said and and conserve some of that water
Yeah.
that we're
No.
using unnecessarily or wasting.
Right.
And that's where I think we should start, rather than jack up the rates, because that'll piss people off. And then that's objective number two, we have unhappy
I don't think
citizens.
anybody's here to jack up rates, just speaking for John and myself.
I mean,
Not in, certainly not in a general sense. I mean, you all saw the models that I put together and 95% of the people, nothing changes.
I know, but
to your
5%
point,
of the people are using a lot of the water and
Just out of curiosity, which is more important in your house, water, electricity, or cable?
without electricity.
No.
You ain't got a
the
report.
others.
For water.
what do you pay?
You pay about 400 for water.
Right, I pay about
Per year.
1,600 a year for water, right? 16 to
We're talking water, not
2,000 a
sewer,
year
just
for
water.
water. And water and sewer. You're talking
No,
water
I'm
and
just
sewer?
talking water.
Oh,
Just water, you don't pay.
Okay.
You pay about 400 a year for water.
Yeah, roughly.
1/4 of the total
You pay
bill?
about 3,000 a year, I'm guessing, for electricity, about the same for cable and internet.
Right.
Okay, so
Well,
it's a
well-
bargain.
Well, I mean, I think, just to kind of just simplify what Jeff said, most people in town are happy as long as they turn the faucet on and water comes out and it's safe to drink.
And they don't have to
And
conserve
Yeah.
it. They prefer not to
Well,
conserve it.
All-
They prefer not to, prefer to be able to water their plants and their grass.
But to your point,
Yeah, simply.
I think the people that are gonna conserve will conserve. And the ones that don't, you're not gonna financially force them to do it. And if you look at what happened in the summertime, there was no financial penalty, and look at how the water usage went down. Right? 12 million gallons less this summer. 12 million.
Hmm.
I got this from Chuck.
Almost 10% of our annual usage.
He says,
Yeah.
and so I said, well, how much of that was conservation? How much was that the repair?
Yeah, because that water did not go through meters.
Right, so he said, no, he's talking about what was pumped. God knows where it went.
Water leaving the.
Water leaving,
the water treatment plant.
all right, so July to August, $12 million, 12 million gallons less. October, September, October, which there's an assumption there was less outside irrigation use, 10 million gallons less. So 2 million gallons, voluntarily saved. If you say that the 12 in the summer, 10 in the winter. So 2 million was people conserving
So now the question is,
voluntarily.
if those people did that voluntarily, if we all of a sudden say, oh, the water restrictions are off, what happens now? I have an idea that a lot of people return right back to where they were, and they're not gonna think at all about, oh, if I have this extra water, I can take this out and do some plants.
Thus, our job is to encourage conservation throughout the year.
Because what's Chuck's theory is somewhere around this 10 million gallon less use in the fall was due to the repaired pipes. Not conservation. So the question being, if you repair the rest of them, how much more can we save?
Give that number again.
Let's see, roughly 200,000 gallons per day. That's 15 to 20% savings in the summer, 25 to 30% in the fall and winter.
But what did he say about the?
No,
new
what do you mean
pipes?
winter? Nothing going on in the winter.
That can't be right.
No.
The percentage is way off.
You know,
What did he say about repairing the pipes?
well, he doesn't know. What
Okay.
we said was if you take the summer,
Yeah,
that was 12 million gallons of usage. That included,
When did the pipe repair start? Was that like August first?
no.
No,
but
July
they
first?
They started before the 4th of July parade.
Right,
Because the
They were there.
piping was on the side of the street for the 4th of July.
just before that, just before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they were
July.
before
Yeah.
that,
so
so.
the end of October.
Roughly speaking, we use 100 million gallons of water in residences in the summer and 40 million gallons in residences in the winter. That's consumption. So if we saved 10 million or 12 million, that's 10 or 12% of summer. No, not 25 or 30. So
No, he was talking about comparing last year's usage. I'm
this
sorry.
is last year's usage.
No, if he said that the September, October from 2021
Okay.
versus September, October this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, on a month, it might be.
Month-
it
month
might not
one.
be Really effective month.
Yeah, right.
But 10% sounds probably about
Yeah,
right.
9% is not bad.
10%, that's 14 million gallons or 10 million, or
If
whatever.
it was annualized, yeah.
If it's annualized, you have to look at it.
But
then.
I
I
think
think
we
the
s-
bottom line is people did comply.
Yeah,
Right.
I think we save more water through education and complying than we do through raising rates.
Or
And then you don't have the shortfall issue either.
what does that behavior tell you about what's gonna happen when we, if and when we raise the top tier rates?
I don't know that it tells you much. I'm
It's all
very
irrigation
pessimistic
water.
about that.
It's all irrigation water.
Peter said it earlier.
I don't know either.
I don't think we know. Scott Horsley did mention this on one of his calls. He said, we've looked into this. We've implemented some of this in our town. It's a little early, but we haven't seen significant change except for we are bringing in more revenue.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, he's got a bunch of grad students trying to dig up more case examples, because Patuit is an anecdote right now, but we can get some, if we can get some others, we can flesh out John and mine's model.
Yeah. Yeah,
Would it be useful? I know this is a contentious subject, but there is an issue here about whether we're asking the town to conserve, or whether we're asking about 250 families to conserve.
I agree. We should need to talk about that.
I think we should thrash that out before we air it in public, because it's a potentially, there's pros and cons to both. There's a potential revolt by the wealthy, whatever that means. And then there's a potential backlash from everyone if your average rate per year went up from $383 to like $500. People would complain legitimately. Because they may find it really difficult to conserve. What do you do?
Well, so let's stick with your point there.
Let it know.
To restate what we need to do. We need
Yeah.
to figure out if we try to conserve through the largest users.
Yeah, carrots or sticks or both,
well, I think you can use carrots on everybody,
but aimed at the 250.
yeah, but
Wait, carrots on everybody.
I'd say carrots on everybody, but sticks on.
Wait, what are carrots on everybody?
In other words, putting inserts into bills, being able to tell people, this is what you used this month, and that's what you used last month, or this is what you used last year this month. And
Okay,
we've got to be able to provide information so that they get educated about what their water usage is and ways to conserve.
Yeah.
But
okay. I
that's
think
just working around the edges.
that is a,
Lawn replacement can work in small lawns or in large lawns. It's not gonna have.
Yeah, that could
but
be
it
a-
has very little impact on. So I was wondering what the carrots were for the most of the users and lower end users. Education. is what
It's
you're saying.
education for them.
Because- See, what I'm thinking is the carrots. We need to go after the big users with big carrots that they really want to eat, not just little bitty.
Baby carrots.
Right, and that's why I'm going back.
Drill your own well, see all the money you can save.
Exactly. Exactly, and I don't see that being off the table yet. I think that is clearly
Well,
a
that's
way to
what,
save a lot of water,
that is,
and we have to help them do it, in my opinion.
when you say
That's
save a lot
what
of
I'd like to
water,
explore at least.
save a lot of the town water.
Absolutely.
That's not saving water in general, they're taking it out of somewhere else.
Yes, but
But
that,
that's
I
their
don't believe
choice.
that that's a problem.
They changed their landscaping. They would use less
That-
water. If
well,
they
that's
switched
true.
From broadcast rainbirds to drip, they
All-
would save a lot of. water.
All of those
They
things.
Instead of,
And
Daily
those are
shower.
relatively inexpensive changes.
none of those is very.
All of those things, but the biggest bang for your buck is gonna be drilling a well. And they'll save a boatload of money and they'll be able to use all the water they want. And I know, John, you have some concerns that they're tapping into the same water supply. I think it's highly unlikely
Yeah.
that they're tapping into the same.
No,
water.
I looked at all the top consumers and all the addresses are Summer Street, Boardman,
Maskinoma.
That is
Mascanoma.
not our,
That's
that's
not
not our-
Apple Lincoln Street well.
We're not worried about any of those, it's not our aquifer.
that, to me, that's the solution for saving the most
But,
water.
but
The question
the
is.
stick is, why would they do that?
Well, give them big enough
How
carrot.
many years?
No, you give them a big enough stick and say, if you don't do this, you're gonna pay a lot of money this
Right,
year.
I'm willing to get both.
Okay, so you use the stick and you say, it's gonna cost you a lot here, maybe you ought to drill a well.
So have you guys made up your mind about whether this is a townwide carrot and stick policy or just a?
No, we're discussing it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid of giving them a big stick off the bat because they won't want the carrot then.
I'm afraid that you need to have a very good reason to conserve. Otherwise, people are just going, you're gonna lose credibility. If you say, hey, guess what, you don't conserve, not giving you water in August, okay, but that's not the case.
And you gotta remember that
Good
this,
point.
this entire summer. Every Tuesday. They said, oh, they're measuring the drought monitor, and then Thursday, all the weather forecasters. Were showing the drought monitor for the state of Massachusetts. And we were, in fact, still are in the highest category, not the highest category of that they could be in extreme, but in statewide, we're in the highest category.
So who's walked around gravelly in the last week?
What'd you say?
Very low, very low. I mean, as low as it was, you know. Really September. So it's not replenishing, although the round bottom wells are pumping full bore.
I've noticed walking elsewhere that only this week has the ground puddled, I'll say. In other words, it had been soaking in until this week.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised.
There, a lot of these strands aren't connected. So one way to make the argument, I'm not convinced of this, but it is a way to make the argument, is to say, we are facing a colossal extra charge to clean up the Lincoln Street well, which we know is gonna come due sometime in the next 5 years. And even with it, we don't have a guarantee that we will be able to produce meaningful quantities of water out of that well.
When you say, clean it up, what do you mean? You mean, PFAS
PFAS filters.
PFAS treatment?
So we can do that. It's technologically feasible, although we can't anticipate accurately what the EPA is gonna do in 5 years compared to what they're gonna do next month.
Yeah, next month is the first one, right? Yeah,
Right.
First set, or second set.
But wouldn't it be great if there was a way to avoid that cost? So now we need to talk about conservation. We need to talk about it seriously, including unallocated water, including irrigation, including how often you flush your toilet. It's everybody's problem. But it, for some people, it's a bigger issue than others. So again, just hear me out.
I agree.
We don't have to put in the filter yet. So what we're talking about is dramatic increases in the higher tiers 3 years from now. Not now. We want to give you 3 years warning. This is a shot across your bow. Ernst and Jordan.
Well, you may not want to wait 3 years. Let's wait to see what the EPA says at the end of the month.
I'm just making
He's
it
through it,
as I
yeah.
go along.
That might be sooner than you think.
In the meantime, here's greenscapes or whatever they call
Yeah.
who will come in and advise you on how to, at relatively low cost, modify your irrigation, modify your watering patterns, and modify your vegetation. So you can be ready, and, you know, you may not have to spend either the what for many people in town would be
Right.
or go through the hassle of drilling a well.
John, did you get any feedback from through with you to 5 as the water and sewer commissioners this summer? Were people nasty to you with
No.
emails and letters?
No, more than normal.
No,
I'm
I'm talking
aware.
about water.
Yeah,
Bigger fish
There.
to fry, right?
you have to sort through them and see
Yeah,
by
exactly.
topic.
Okay.
Let's see, was 3% worse than the dispatch decision?
No, water, we got really no,
Okay.
no pushback at all, but I think that the circumstances, it was well publicized that there was a water problem in Massachusetts. And when we just got on board, people weren't arguing that, all right, this makes sense. And I think we all know that in general, we do not have a water problem,
Right.
okay? So to your point, you gotta give them a reason. That is not a reason.
The reason is we're preparing to close down the well.
And that's,
If we have to.
that's fair, in which
And the
case,
$10 million we don't
in which
have to
case, if
spend.
we're not, you know, if
That's sellable to
Yeah.
everybody,
And the
every
the
tier.
$10 million we don't have to spend on the well, if we can work this out.
I agree,
Will
unless,
be our reserve to protect Gravelly's water treatment, because we don't know.
I agree, except then what if we have to open up the well again? Or are we saying we're never gonna use the well again?
Well, I mean, you can go to the long range plan, and nobody sees this town becoming 7,500 people and then 10,000 people.
No.
So are you saying we'll just not use the well again?
That would be ideal.
the water consumption is not gonna change.
So our proposal, pushing this out now 6 months or a year, or whatever it is we're going to stop using the Lincoln Street well within the next X number of years.
He's
Traveling, it's-
No, I'm just saying, is that,
Pull together the strand.
is that palatable, do you think, to the town, to the government, our government?
At the Board of Health, we're getting a lot of calls about what the hell are you doing about the PFAS?
Yeah.
And we say,
Are you?
oh yeah, we're saying, listen, we have to wait for the EPA to come up with the recommendations and it's not us. They're gonna tell us what to do. So we're just following orders.
And, you know, I mean, right now, I know the assays from there are just kind of, not a problem at Gravelly, but they're what, like halfway there, halfway to the cutoff, 2/3?
No, less than that.
2/3,
Less than.
they're a little less than half.
Well, less than half, I thought.
Some of them have been 8 and 9.
I thought he had 2 labs, he was averaging, you know.
The kicker is that's the 2 toxic ones that they're gonna come out with in December.
Yeah, then they added,
We're over half. We're over the
and
10.
they're not gonna change the cutoff, they'll just say you add this into your total.
If you're gonna say, these 2 are looked at separately.
Yeah.
You're over this mark, you are now a hazardous site, and you have to be treated as a superfund, period.
We don't want that.
We've talked about looking for a third source for ourselves also. And also, when you talk like that, that makes me again think, if big users use wells, they're gonna be happy.
Well, and another important piece of this puzzle is what Scott has proposed to do, which is to calculate the safe yield, sustainable yield of Gravelly Pond with the round pond wells. So we'll have a number there that we can work with. It's pretty clear that if you shut off the round pond wells, you deplete Gravelly Pond. We had an actual experiment courtesy of Bob Maroney some years ago that proved that. But we
Run
don't
that
know-
by me again, if you shut off Lincoln Street wells,
Gravelly is dependent on
around pond, yeah,
Yeah,
oh, okay.
Gravelly depends on round pond to stay.
Pumping
Yes.
into it.
Oh, we're pumping a lot into it all the time.
The question is, what could it support on its own, year in, year out? It's got,
Wait, without round?
no, with round.
Yes,
Without-
with
Yeah,
round.
but without
with
Lincoln.
round. Right,
And I asked,
Could we supplement the round pond wells?
yes.
The shortest money here for new sources, it's only a couple $1 million to get a new well certified. But to do that, we have to clean up our act, because we've got to get state permission to drill a well, and as far as I can tell, they're not gonna look at us.
They're gonna laugh rather than look
Look at us. You wanna
when they
drill
see the amount of
another well?
unaccounted water.
They can pump water into the basements of people living on School Street, come on.
And I asked Chuck. I says, is there any way that we can use the Gravelly Pond? It's a beautiful site, right? Chris, is there any way? And he thought that he could change the filter medium if he had to filter out the PFAS. It would be a very small, relatively small cost.
Because it's a treatment facility.
Because it's already, it's a matter of changing, but he thought he was gonna check, he wasn't sure.
It's the medium that.
It's the
different
medium.
types of medium.
It's
The medium would be more expensive
activated charcoal.
and getting rid of it will be more expensive, but it'd be a heck of a lot cheaper than $12 million.
Because all the pumping.
Everything's
the-
there.
The settling
Filtration
tanks
is
are all
already there.
Yeah.
Too good to be true.
So the point of it is if we could rely on Gravelly for everything, that would be pennies from heaven. Dollars from heaven.
Yeah, I think I think we have to, as Steve said, we have to prove our conservation progress. We have to create it and then show that to the state, maybe drill another well and fill up Gravelly even more, you know? And shut off Lincoln, save the 10 million and promote conservation out of the problem that we can't keep running Lincoln unless we want to spend 10 million.
Aside from the settling pond, I mean, you walked around Gravelly as much as anybody. Aside from the settling pond, if we added 100 million gallons to the 330 that's in there, what would happen geographically? It would still be contained.
Oh, no, we wouldn't have to, why would we don't have to. I don't know about the 100 million. It would,
I mean,
we don't have to, we
We added
can,
6 feet.
we can, yes, from where it is now.
No, from its normal peak.
Why would we ever do that? We have plenty of water in there to draw from. We'd only fill it to the
Yeah,
top.
refill, they need it.
Talk to the hydrologist to see what this, if it has a safe yield of X, it needs a, running capacity of Y. And we're running those numbers now, but they're down because we have Lincoln Street well. Artificially.
I don't think we have to overfill Gravelly to supply our water for every year. That's my judgment.
I guess
If we
my
did
point is
overfill it,
We
it
didn't,
would run out.
we didn't dam anything to create gravity. It was there. It's a natural pond.
There's
Yeah.
those little dams, but it would, once you overflow those, then you are going to be running out into Chabaco Lake
We're running around pond.
and Round Pond, yeah.
So right now Gravelly is what, like 60% of our water?
Yes,
I think 60. And to move to 100 means you got to make up the other 40, but you're saying, okay, let's of that other 40, let's reduce usage by 20.
Yeah.
So we only got to load it up.
That's why I redid all
then,
these.
then you fix your
Yeah,
pipes, you pick
see.
up another 15.
Yeah,
And you
I wanted to
put
see how
another-
crazy it is to save, say, 40 million gallons a year. in conservation. I don't think it's crazy.
I don't think it is either.
It's not a 1 year,
there-
it's
yeah,
not a
there-
1 year, it's a 5 year.
It's
plan,
a
but-
30 million gallons. If we're at 140, 150, you got to save 30 because the other 30 is. Yeah,
In education, as you pointed out, John. The flyers, the
Yeah.
school, the Board of Health paid this January's. Greenscape.
Yeah.
I know, so you did it last year, right?
Yes, and the kids are well aware of that. The kids go home and they tell their parents.
So, and I asked the newspaper if they would cover it. And I said, why don't you speak to the Greenscape about what the program's about? And then go speak to the kids, if they've been through it. That would be a great public interest piece.
I agree.
I have no idea whether it'll fall through or not. I had 2 conversations with Erica. And, sometimes you just get yes to that.
We could make that happen through the school if we did that.
And I did ask the school if they would be willing to have the newspaper, and they were thrilled. They said, oh, yeah, we'd love to.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of room for.
I think the person to work on is Paul Clark. He's a. And he takes his orders from Erica, but I'm sure he
Yeah.
gives
Yeah.
Erica suggestions too. I mean, he's.
Another approach is to get a couple of low hanging, large properties. Low hanging fruit, whatever that metaphor is, to become role models.
I agree with that approach.
And I've got a couple of meetings set for the next 2 weeks that I'd like you to, John,
Yeah.
Tom to join me on. Where we'll just explore, not to stigmatize anybody, but to say, you know, your neighborhood uses a lot of water in the summer. And it could be that some of that is unnecessary. And here's what's at stake. They're all, the people I have in mind are smart people. They're inherently interested in conservation and town,
Yeah,
whatnot. So I'm sure they're complying with watering bans. Question is, how would they react to some,
a separate well,
to some
on
increase in
a neighborhood
pricing?
basis, not
Yeah,
individually.
Separate well, increase in prices, greenscapes.
Exactly. Those kinds
I
of
think that's, we need to do that, and you'll get a ton of information from that, and then we prove whether or not they can be advocates, and at that point, if they can, we're golden. If
Sure.
not, it's not going down the right path.
That's a good idea of the neighborhood well. I don't know how much you could
You
spread.
can credit George Smith for that, because his father drilled a well at the corner of Mascanoma and Beach, the old Booth Hotel property.
Yeah,
And it was a gusher for the first 10 years. He even, when he took over the property, he invited Maroni over and said, can you use this water? It's producing way too much water for us. And Maroni couldn't figure out a way to get that water over to treatment anywhere. Which makes sense, but right now, George is sharing it with 3 other neighbors.
So what does it take to be?
oh, George is off the water system, he's doing his own
What's
thing.
it take to be a what's it called, a community? Community, not a, so what's it called? A
CATV.
community water system or something like that. In other
Yeah.
words, how many houses do you have to have on that before it? In other words, before it has to test and everything like that, so.
Well, it'll be.
Well, That'll irrigation, they're not gonna
Irrigation.
use that for house, they're still hooked up for
Those people all have
town water.
dual meters at least. They have the bypass meter and they have the.
All the houses out there would, because they're not gonna pay.
So just run the well into the bypass.
That house is for sale for 25 million, ought to have a space for a well. And you can throw it onto the selling price.
I mean, there's issues. There's several wells out there that are too saline to use on for irrigation, and there's one that's too iron. Again, it stains the lawn.
Where, out on Smith's Point
Out on
somewhere,
Mascanoma, yeah.
on Mascanoma, is that right? Oh, okay.
And that's just, I would chalk that up to bad drilling or some other effect. You don't finish a well when you're bringing up iron laden water, I don't think.
No.
And what's their names? The 601 Summer, the hill, what's it called? Summer Hill. Drilled a community well, and it's very saline.
Oh, that's the new development.
Yeah, it's very saline.
Oh, it's saline?
Yeah, they've had trouble using it to go on walls.
Blindman Hill? Blindman's?
Blendman.
Blendman's are-
Blendman's
Yeah,
are-
yeah, it's eight
Well, they're using that water just for irrigation.
And that would be the general rule. These would only be for irrigation. Although there is this little niggling riddle that John and I haven't been able to figure out yet, which is that the heavy users use significantly more in the winter than the light users. And either they have much larger households or what, we can't quite.
Well,
garden,
no.
so-
A lot of ice cubes.
I'm speculating that they've got a pretty long irrigation season. And that whatever the 2 winter quarters are, the
That's
front end of the
possible.
first quarter and the back end of the second quarter
Yeah.
are irrigation times. Because I know in one of the calculations,
October, November,
they were using like 23,000 gallons a quarter. When the rest of the world is using like 5 and 6 and 7.
So you're not saying they use more in the winter, you're saying their percentage. compared to
The
others
amount
go
of,
No, they use more.
they're using more water, no question. But a lot of these houses are only 2 or 3 people in there. I don't care if you've got 8 people in there. You're not gonna use 20.
Are they counting the maids and the butlers too?
Oh,
I mentioned that.
There aren't many houses. with them.
still, it's
Used
an
to be
awful
there in the
lot. The
summer.
average consumption in the winter is an awful lot on a per user basis. I mean, we're making assumptions on how many people are in these houses.
Yeah, here's the averages for the low, medium, and heavy users, which are these vertical.
That's what they use water from in the winter.
Winter water, 16,000 gallons for 2 quarters. 34,000 gallons. 54,000 gallons per household. Summer, 2367, 243. We knew that. That's a problem.
Yeah, 10
We're trying
times
to
as
address.
much, but
This one I don't understand. How can a household in the high usage, this is a 200, almost 200 household, 175 household. Be using 4 times? as much?
Yeah, three and a half, yeah.
3.5 times as much?
I-
There's only so many
Four times as much as what? As
As a
themselves?
as your house,
Oh, as my house.
as you in the village.
Oh, it's my house. Okay, so you're not saying they use more, that particular household doesn't use more in the winter than the summer. They use,
No,
No.
it's the winter time comparison. The
But
Kosher
they use a,
The one assumption that is made in all of this is that whatever the wintertime usage is for household consumption, it's the same in the summer. If you take, 7 showers a week in the winter, you're
Indoor-
taking 7 showers
indoor
a week in the
consumption should
summer.
be about the same.
It should be about, you have to make that assumption. So you
But
back
it
that
doesn't-
out.
It doesn't explain this discrepancy
No.
in winter household usage.
What's that, 16,000 to 54,000?
Yes,
So
That's huge.
these households aren't 3.5 times larger.
yeah,
They don't take 3.5 times as many showers. They must be
There's
irrigating,
probably not 3.5 times the number of people in the house either.
leaking.
no,
Well, how does it compare to summer usage?
Summer usage is
Summer usage
worse,
is a
much
factor of
worse.
10, 23,000 at the Koshan household, 243,000 at the.
So it's,
Weldon household.
so the bigger houses, the winter usage is a third of the
10%.
summer.
It's about a fifth, 243 to 54, and these
Oh,
are
we're
not
talking
the
about the
23 to 16. There's not much shift in the low users. Some of them are, using twice as much in the summer, but most of them aren't.
But again, if that would certainly imply that they're using a lot, but they're using less in the summer. Which
So I'm
means
hoping some of these.
they're not irrigating.
Throw some light on this riddle.
Oh, with some of those folks say, yeah, how come you're using so much water in
When
general?
do you stop irrigating? Would be one question.
Well, maybe their hot water heater is a long way from their shower head and they gotta run it 10 minutes. I don't know.
Well, it's also possible they have several residences on the property, but one water account
and leaks.
and leaks. Yeah. Anyway, that's not a big problem to solve. The big problem is this summer bump. And particularly the 100, this is 150 of the 175 top users. Which in one sense is good news, because if you can create any kind of groundswell among those, say,
That's where
Two-thirds of
changing behavior of just very few people
right,
generates big returns.
right.
And so I think, yeah, I mean, to push folks toward drilling wells is that is an end game. That's an end point for us. We don't have to, once that's done, they're off the
And I think
grid.
the best way
right.
the two best ways I've heard to do that is have these meetings with peers.
Yeah.
And talk about the Lincoln Street well costing $10 million and we don't want to use it. If that's what
It's certainly a good goal.
it's new to me today that that's a realistic option to shut off the Lincoln Street well and never turn it on.
Well, we haven't run it past Chuck, and I suspect he'll have. a
Because
strong-
you do have to get more water out of gravel
Yeah.
somehow. I mean,
Oh,
you do
yeah.
need to increase
Almost everything.
that by about 20, I was gonna say 25%.
If it's supplying 60%, it's. gonna go up.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, but our overall usage of water would go down, so you don't have to go up to that same.
Yep.
Same number.
Hence
I think
the,
that's
hence the 3-year ramp.
an easy sell to the town, whether we achieve it or not. Right, we're gonna, this is the goal. We wanna eliminate the dependency on the well. We need to conserve to do that. We may not make it, but let's all try. And that you can sell.
My goodness, we have a guest.
Ellen,
Ellen, greetings.
She's on
You're
mute.
due to adjourn at 4.
Or we have it until 4:30 here.
it's
Ellen, can you hear us?
Anyway, you probably didn't see this, but the last page, I just said, there's at least 3 big things we can consider. One is to raise the rates for heavy usage. That's this blue line. It just says the more you use, the more you're gonna hit those high rate tiers. Another is to institute summer surcharges. So before we get into drought conditions, we just say summer water is gonna be more scarce and therefore more valuable than winter water.
Mhm.
And this one is conservation
Mhm.
initiatives, incentives.
And some usage would be across the board or just on the 175.
Well, we have to, that's why we built the model. We have to run the numbers, but if we raise even dramatically, if we raise just tiers 4, 5, and 6, it's gonna have no impact on the people on this side of the,
Which is
1,500.
the vast majority. That's-
And if we give them a surcharge for summer, you know, they can either decide they're gonna pay the extra $200 or
200.
100, whatever it's gonna be. It's not gonna be much for them.
So how do you feel about
What's that?
raising the rates on the tiers 4, 5, and 6? To me. Do you think that might help your cause in?
You know, we
getting
don't
them
know.
to comply, or do you think that will tick them off?
I don't,
And I'm not gonna do my well, and I don't have to do greenscapes,
I mean,
and I'll pay whatever I wanna pay.
And I'll bet you a check.
use phrases like this, but you know, chump change, lunch money, that's kind of what this is.
I think most of those homeowners don't even see the bill.
These high-
So then there's no point in raising those rates if, for the goal of conserving.
I don't know, when I say they don't see it, somebody sees it, is somebody gonna bring it to their attention?
My less than expert guess is that raising the rates on tier 4, 5, and 6 will not save you a significant amount of consumption. Thus, if you want to increase revenue, you should do it, but not if you want to conserve water. And what I stated at the beginning was our goal was not to increase revenue. Our goal was to conserve water and keep people happy.
And I agree with Jeff. If I own a $10 million house, I want it to look really nice and I'll give you an extra $2,000 of water. I don't care.
Thus, we have the same problem, and the Lincoln Street well still has to run or something silly.
Right, so on average.
Hold on just for a second.
Yeah.
Helen, can you, if you can hear us, unmute yourself so you can talk to us. You're muted right now.
Or John, whoever's there,
Somebody,
we know it's not a butt dial, because you can't butt dial Zoom.
well, you know, we really need to find out how that group of people live.
Their
So-
total bills, average the top 150 who have the highest summer bump and the higher usage. Their total water bill, not sewer, but water is $2,400 a year.
Right,
And they're using a colossal amount of drinking water on their plants. And so the combination of those two things, kind of the patriotic / shame of wasting drinking water. And the fact that we could raise that 2,400 to 24,000.
that's what the numbers would do for the very upper tier.
That would piss me off. That would not. I would ignore all carrots at that point.
Well, you'd have 3 years to adjust to it.
I like that.
We'd have a lot of assistance to not be using that much drinking water anymore.
Did
Green
that number go down this year?
Did what?
The 2,400 in water for those top,
We don't have account data yet.
we don't know.
I think it's a whole different ballgame if you do what you said and give it a 3-year thing and say, we're trying to keep Lincoln Street, we're trying to get rid of Lincoln Street well. We got 3 years, we're in this together.
Yep.
And if we can't conserve a bunch of water, we're gonna have to jack up rates big time.
Yep.
That's
Because we've got
that's
to,
reasonable.
because then we're gonna have to pay the $10 million for Lincoln Street well, and that money's gotta come from somewhere. I mean, any increase would not happen without an advance notice of at least a year.
Dramatic increase.
You know, otherwise, we've just been going up 3%. You hear nothing from anybody.
It's
It just
expected.
goes.
It's glacial.
And so you hear nothing. And so you've got to tell people this is something that we're gonna have to do if
And we have to say it's 2,400 to 24,000
yes,
because likely rates are going to have to go up more than they have been going up. Because if we conserve water, we're gonna need more money. So rates are gonna, we can't go and say, oh, rates aren't gonna go up because we're doing so great. Because rates are going to go up by more than they have been going up.
It's true. We can also make the argument that what we saw as a relatively low-cost resource, drinking water, is clearly gonna get more expensive if it hasn't already. Lincoln Street is just kind of that's the canary in the coal mine for us. So we're gonna face PFAS sooner or later in the main treatment facility. We're gonna have to deal with it. And then there's gonna be other contaminants of concern that we have not yet really faced.
Is there anything they can do to lower the sewer rates? The sewer rates are killing us, it's
Well,
not water.
what I heard, just to
It's an enterprise thing.
add something to that,
Very few of
You
these,
have to cover your costs.
very few of these 150 are on town. sewer.
Right,
And the other thing is that there's
that right?
only about, there's about.
Sewer is Mount Masconomo.
No, there's only about, sewer only goes as far as the 127 Railroad Bridge on Summer
Yes,
Street.
and
And
then
everybody
the
else
rest of
is,
Summer Street and
Yeah.
most of the
so,
big bucks on Summer Street are beyond that
and
anyway.
it's probably 60% on sewer and 40% on their own septic.
Yeah, I think Boardman has a private sewer line for part of it. But there's a while that people on Mascanoma were trying to do that, but it fell apart.
No Masconomo pipe.
They get, having their
They
own
couldn't do it.
treatment or
No, they're just gonna
septic.
put in their own sewage. And get.
A big septic,
Tie it into the town.
tied, they were gonna lay the pipe?
They're gonna lay the pipe.
I went on that sewage treatment tour about a month or two ago.
Yeah,
And Chuck Dam and other people there, and what he said was, over the next decade or two, there's going to be big changes at the sewer plant, including possibly not having the sewage plant, it going to Gloucester instead or something like that, because of sea level rise and.
I think it's also aging.
no, it's not aging
I
up.
didn't hear that.
The capacity of that place is great.
Exceptional, yes,
Yeah.
plenty of.
And
capacity. I think
you
it's
know,
on sea level.
I had a tour of it. To move that, if you think 10 million is a lot for PFAS, that is chump change.
To build
Right,
a
so sewer's not looking good.
So
is my
sewer is not looking good. We're much better off building a berm that's about 10 feet high around, it,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
like New Orleans.
Gloucester,
Anyway,
Gloucester's got sewer problems.
Yeah.
plus you're trying to get all the communities to have a regional sewer treatment, because they give big grants.
Yeah, but Gloucester's trying to get 100 million for us to add secondary treatment. They don't even have secondary treatment on their primary.
So I don't mean to get into a big thing here, I just mean to say, don't look at sewer rates as a savings
No,
area.
sewer's not, it's got its own issues.
Right.
I'm just wondering, even with the higher rates for the higher people, I don't know how much extra revenue that would be. In other words, you have to have a credible statement, say, yeah, and if you don't do this, we're gonna have to check up the rates, because we gotta start planning for a $10 million investment X number of years down the road. How much money have you gotta collect?
Yeah.
To make that pay? I mean, you have a bond that you issue, and over 30 years, I don't know, 10 million bucks, what do you have to pay into that a year? And is this amount of money gonna be able to pay for that?
We don't
Plus,
want
they're
2,000
expensive
households.
over two.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you have to change the charcoal.
Yeah.
But you have to have a credible story, I guess, associated with that to say, yeah, the math can work this way if things don't change from a,
The math will eventually work out because you
It
have
has
to
to.
have it, and you have to pay for it.
it has to.
What we can't do, the mistake would be to say. Rates won't be going up so badly, you know, we
Right.
can't say that because rates are going to go up.
Yeah.
Because of this.
Yeah,
And
so
it's-
better information, good feedback is essential. So that's replacing meters with things that can be real time for the user as well as for the DPW.
Well,
water
Chuck
department.
did, you know, if we were getting more money out of these increases, you were thinking that's where that money could go to meters.
Part of it, yeah.
But if it's gotta go to the PFAS thing, there's just too many,
Yeah, but I think it's an order of magnitude.
it's an order of magnitude less, no question. But,
Round number.
it'd be good to have those. We're really dependent upon those meters in terms of being able to provide feedback to consumers about, this is how you're doing,
Yeah,
Right.
baby
or
carrots.
this is how you're not doing.
Yeah, it won't affect consumption
And
unless they
I
wanted
think,
to.
I mean, that's one of the critical recommendations we have to make here. to let people know where they stand. And right now, we all know the bills we get. You say, it's a standalone number.
That's
It's
the
not
other-
bad. I
that's-
just pay it. and That's
That's
it.
the other piece of feedback. The bill has to be more
Yeah,
informative.
so one of our recommendations out of this group, no doubt, is new meters that can provide
Yep. a new billing.
informative bill. That's,
New billing
Right
that
up
shows you last 2 years, shows you relative to your neighborhood, shows you relative to.
Oh, just like the electrical company or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Well,
Also grid, yeah,
Boston, you flip over your Boston.
Oh, does Boston do that?
Yeah, you see the last 8 quarters in your property. You see your current bill compared to some neighborhood definition they give you. So they say on average, you're using, just like the electrical, you're using 16% more than your neighbors.
This is always aggravating to me in the winter. Have my neighbors go to Florida. Of course, they're cheaper than me. There's nobody home.
yeah, and I got one who has a wood burning stove, and they say, you're using more than the guy next
Of
door.
course.
Yeah, but I can breathe in my house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it something we said?
Well,
just exited there.
So we need to do the math on, we get a 10% reduction. How much, how
Or
does that,
10% reduction
on
on
usage,
usage.
how does that impact revenue? And will increasing the top tiers
do we
make up
really,
for that?
is our water this task force in the end really going to make a recommendation on water rates?
No,
I
make a
don't think-
recommendation to the select board.
Are we really going to recommend new rates? Because my intuition is we won't be able to accurately give a good recommendation for rates because things will change. If people conserve, those rates are invalid right away.
Yeah, that's why they reset every year.
Yeah, they already said every
Maybe
year.
I just don't think it should be our goal.
Be more frequent. If that's possible legally,
I think
while we're in transition.
there has to be a recommendation on how the rates are gonna change in the future. They're always gonna go up, but the rates are going to be higher for the higher tiers. I think that has to be an expectation. Okay, and you can model a couple of things and say,
Okay.
this is how it might happen. I don't think we know. And, you know, I think sitting down with a couple of people that are using a lot of water is gonna be very educational.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, but again, I'm going to I don't think that we should, as I currently understand things, I don't think that we should have a goal to set some example rate scenarios and do all that math. I don't think we need
We
to.
already have.
Well,
I don't think they're valid. I don't think they're predictable. I don't think they're useful,
do
really.
we set a goal on how much we want to conserve each year?
It's the,
Yes, I think we should do that.
We want to conserve 10% of,
it's the land of the blind thing, Jeff. I mean. So we only have one eye. We know we're not right, but it's a lot better than.
I think our effort should be on how much we how much we need to conserve and how we need to fill up gravelly and how.
Yeah, I think.
I
we need to-
just don't think we
we need to
really
back-
need to do a lot of
we need to
math.
Back into rate.
Well, I think that the graph that you put together.
Yeah.
Is all that's needed. And I'm not
It
sure
could be-
which line you're following. Maybe there's another line,
Yeah.
but you need to know, you said, did you see the graph?
I'm not sure which one
I
you're
don't
talking
think I
about.
shared it with anybody.
Oh, yeah, maybe you didn't. There,
I mean, the arrows that he just showed us, to me, are
No,
almost
no.
good.
Well, John
these graphs,
did calculations and I. put them on.
you look at these graphs, they really. Kind of,
So there's
well,
3
yeah.
scenarios.
it's a back page,
No change in rate.
they're all stable.
The other one is, rate 4, 5, 6 go up 2 times, 4 times, 8 times.
Right,
over those 3 tiers. And on the top one, they go up 5 times, 10 times, 20. Almost nobody is paying in tier 6 in residential, if we set it, way too high. For them, even them.
so if we come back to the major committee and say, it's our recommend, you pick a number, it's our recommendation that there be an effort to reduce usage by X percentage.
Right.
Boom, and here are a half a dozen ways to do that. We have no idea which ones will work.
yeah, but you have to know that this is how the revenue flows for these increases, this is how the revenue goes, the more people conserve.
Well, don't give up completely. We may get, I'm hoping, we get some decent pieces of evidence that are more than anecdotal from this grad student project that Scott has kicked off a few months ago.
Well, what would be worth $1 million is if you come back and say, we talked to 10 of the biggest users and they're using all this water in the winter and they don't even know, and it's not necessary. That would be, oh my God, that would be beautiful.
Well, I expect some of them will say, I had no idea I was using that much.
Good. That's an education.
They probably don't know because it's probably leaks.
Well, I don't-
They don't know because it's like,
yeah,
if something in your budget all of a sudden goes up 25%. Then, you know, whether it happens to be your cable bill or the grocery bill or whatever, then you react to that. But they're used to getting,
Right.
I mean, a big bill, and during the winter, they think, hey, this is a deal compared to what I was paying during the summer.
to them, it's rare that the bill is, water bill for a quarter is over $1,000. They're at the top of the expenditure. There was a guy on Crooked Lane who got a bill for $12,000 in spring. And of course, he came straight to DPW and said.
What's going
WTF? And they found a leak. He wasn't using that water, he was losing it, but it was after it went through his meter. So he came to the, you might have been there, he came to the
Yeah.
select board and you gave him
And then we give them some sort of a discount or an allowance on that basis, but.
but with those exceptions, nobody sees those kinds of anomalies.
No, but if that 54,000 or whatever it was gallons that you had,
Yeah, winter time usage.
if 30,000 of that is leaking every quarter,
Yeah.
that answers the question.
That would answer the question.
Then it should be reduced this summer also, right?
Right.
All year round, yeah.
Yeah. I just don't know what the sensitivity is of these folks, you know, I think rounding errors for them are 10,000 a crack. And to go from 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000, their monthly bills for their lifestyles so different. That,
Yeah, I suspect they have landscapers that pay X amount a year to keep it looking beautiful, and if that means water, and they water. The guy who pays the bills never speaks to the landscaper.
this may be one of 3 houses that they own,
Probably.
you know, so it's just,
What are the landscapers incentives? If he has those rainbirds going chick, 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 then the owner knows I'm getting water on them. If he had a client with a drip system, the owner wouldn't have a clue.
Oh, if it's green. If it's green, it's working. If it's not green, it's not working.
You know,
What you're saying is the stick won't work in that case.
I don't know. It depends
don't
on awareness, right?
It comes back to education. If you can educate them to save money, if you can educate them to conserve,
Yeah.
they'll do it. I don't know that a stick alone will work.
just don't know how aware they are. That's where it all
That's
starts.
the threshold.
That is, there's the key question. How many of these people that are using this amount of water
Right.
have any idea?
And then the mechanism, who makes the decisions, who turns on the irrigation,
And
et cetera.
if they all do, that will get a response. There's no question. They would react to that. And if you tell them in advance, this is going, you know, we're gonna change things in about 2 years because we need to adjust conservation and the problem with PFAS, you'll get a response. But if they never look at it,
And Peter's absolutely right. We need to build an argument that has a genuine
a need.
cost, threat, need in it. Just saying, hey, Manchester's the poster child
You
of
can't-
wasting water. Say, okay, big deal. That's why I like.
Because we are wasting water, but frankly, it hasn't hurt us.
Right,
Yeah, until Lincoln Street well.
Well, so much
Until-
yet, and yeah. I mean, you can always say that there are gonna be problems and most people will say, yeah, that's what you said 10 years ago,
Right.
and 20 years ago,
Yeah,
and in 1990.
Like I'm
And look where we are.
like pretend like you're really gonna build a 10-foot berm around the sewage treatment
Yeah,
plant.
well.
Nobody's gonna believe you.
Unless
Unless you
push
move
comes to
the,
shove.
tracks too.
you know,
just
you
saying.
don't have to move, the Legion will have to move.
Well, I don't mean to get into that, but.
Well, they're the canary in the gun. They're gonna have they're the first ones to have the problem.
Right.
I asked the community, I called it,
Review, 10-foot berm.
Oh, no, well, it would be inside of that, but
Okay,
I called the commuter rail. And I said, you know, if the water comes up and threatens that area, what's your plan to prevent the commuter rail from getting washed out? You know what they told me? We don't care, our contract ends before then.
Was it Eolus you were talking to?
Yeah, it's great.
Right, so what are we concluding?
So I like the way you were writing it, that we would start with a usage that might be easily satisfied by the safe yield of gravelly and ponds. And we work backwards into, therefore, how much can we get from improving unallocated water, how quickly is that gonna come? Capital pipes. So the remainder, we have to get from reductions in usage. And then we have the delightful task of figuring out how much is gonna come from the 1,500 small users as opposed to the 200. And parents and six, but it sounds to me like we got the skeleton of a set of recommendations, which are more than just about sources and uses, they're also about contamination, and about climate change.
There's so much water up in that corner. A ton.
That's why that's all you have to solve, really.
And kind of, yeah, and
The first time I heard you say that. But yeah, we could.
that's where the
if we
lion's
could-
share of
if we
the
just get them to stop irrigating,
conservation.
We would save 40 million gallons a year. and that-
Hey,
it's over.
we'd be in the gravelly pond tomorrow if they did that.
That's why the easy solution, in my opinion, is to drill a $40,000 well. That's the easiest solution. That's why at one point I suggested, oh, heck, we'll pay for some of it.
Yeah, no, I was with you on that. It sounds
I
crazy.
mean, it sounds crazy, but it immediately saves us 20% water or something like that. We immediately reach our conservation goal.
Yeah.
We immediately go to
Well,
the
and the
state.
addition would be that, 1 day a week, every other town resident gets to use it.
That's not going anywhere.
No.
That's not going anywhere.
I'm just thinking, see, you do have to say, you'd have to put together some sort of a model that would say, you're gonna have to drill a well, it's gonna cost you X thousand. But if you don't, the rates are gonna cost you
Yeah.
X thousand,
I mean,
or
if
maybe
you're-
even more than X
You're
thousand.
paying an extra.
And just say, you're paying one way or
$20,000.
the other, and this way you can control that
I
at
agree.
the same time.
3 years out from now,
So, but you have to
it's
put
gonna
the
be bad.
numbers, but you have to put the numbers up there so they see the
I
math.
agree, that picture, you start with that picture, right, that you have. in
Yeah,
front of you.
yeah.
That says, this is why we're coming to you, because you can help the most.
Right.
And
Right,
greenscapes, well, and leaks,
That's it.
you know,
Then you're done. You have no place to go on Thursdays anymore.
we still need to raise the money for the PFAS situation, well, but it may not be, it may be a lot less with gravelly.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, Chuck's guess was it would be,
What, two?
it would be minuscule, it would be filter material and disposal and recycling of it.
Yeah, so it'd be basically operating costs.
Operating costs would be significantly less. And I asked him, why don't we pipe the Lincoln Street well water up there?
All right, so this really solves two
I don't
problems.
think we have the infrastructure from Morse to, we only go one way from treatment facility to the Morse Hill tank. Oh, we do have pipe laid, so
wait, what was just said there?
if we could get the Lincoln Street well, untreated water up to Gravelly Pond Treatment Facility. We can do it all in one bill.
Do it all in one.
We're doing all the treatment at the Lincoln Street well right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lincoln goes to,
Lincoln-
whatever we treat there, we treat there, and then it goes right into the, goes right into the system.
Goes,
We do a much better job at that.
We spoke about that at one of our meetings, and Chuck just said, oh, man, run the pipes up there. It was,
that's why they have that serpentine motion for the pipe
Right.
between the well house and the street where it goes out.
for settling and.
Yeah, no,
or
so
mixing.
it has a certain number of feet of pipe for the amount of time that it has to have contact before it gets into
With
the
the
system.
chemicals.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just confused for a minute that there is no direct connection between Lincoln Street and Gravelly.
No.
Both dump in the Morse Hill tank.
Yeah, Lincoln Street, what is it, what just it pumps in right in, right at the main, right in front of
I
the.
think it does that, I don't think it goes up.
It is, goes,
Right.
goes right into the main.
The street on
The
Lincoln
main,
Street.
under the street, and that's it. So really, different people are getting water from different places depending upon where you live. You know, now, obviously, if they're not pumping Lincoln Street, why then Gravely eventually fills up the whole system. But when they're pumping Lincoln Street, if you're
Yeah,
downstream
that's
of that,
interesting.
you get Lincoln Street
It's
water.
interesting, me on Vine Street, I might get 90% of my water from Lincoln
From
Street.
Lincoln,
Well-
when it's pumping, yeah.
To put a sharp point on it, the kids in the schools are drinking mainly.
Yeah, they're drinking Lincoln.
Yeah, but they don't get all.
They don't drink much water.
Well, no, they have their flasks and stuff.
I think I get all my Rockwood, I get all mine from Gravelly, I think.
So,
Well,
So that solves two problems, the PFAS problem and the conservation problem, one shot.
yeah, if the timing works.
then we gotta figure out how to make up the financial shortfall. If we hit the conservation.
In my opinion, that's going to happen
Yes.
regardless.
Yeah.
We can't, you're gonna have to pay for it.
So everyone would pay a little bit.
Everyone would pay a little bit, but maybe the rates would be dramatically increased for the higher
Well,
users because the bill is.
We'll have a trial balloon with this summer's drought ban, because Chuck will know this is where the savings came. Because we've got a reduced,
Anybody know what the fixed cost of the water treatment facility is as opposed to the cost per gallon of stuff we actually put through it? We got the staff, that's fixed. We've got the depreciation and repair of the equipment, that's fixed.
water.
And bring the.
Yeah, I think fixed and variable usually aren't in budgets. They're in,
No, they
operating.
won't, they'll, but this is,
I'm just wondering if it would bite us at Gravelly. If we were really effective at conservation and Gravelly's treatment. Volume went down. I guess, then Chuck can adjust. How many tanks he maintains and how many staff he has on.
you're talking about Gravely, you're talking about Lincoln.
On the Gravelly.
I don't follow.
Yeah, I'm not following. Gravely would be picking up slack.
Well, Jeff was concerned about the reduction in usage if conservation works well and people put in private.
Oh, just
wells.
conservation independent of anything else.
Yeah,
Just,
And
you just,
if it worked very well, I mean, if we came down to the actual state norms and averages, didn't exceed those things for unallocated or.
he will know all of that within the next month or two, simply because that's what happened this summer.
The drought information. Yeah.
That's what happened this summer. So he's had to pay the same bills
Yeah, he's got payroll.
with fewer
Right,
billings.
and he's used less chemicals.
Less
because
chemicals,
it's been
less
less-
filter.
Yes, so
less throughput.
that's a few silver linings.
Yeah, it could be only the chemicals, because you have to test the same cycle. or something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the bill that Weston and Sampson gives us for running the plant goes down because we
No,
pump
it's the
less
same
water.
number. That's the same number.
I'm guessing it's a mainly fixed cost facility. So we would like a smooth landing, have the town using roughly the safe yield of gravel pond. We haven't factored in, new development like the 40B. Would that have a measurable effect on total water consumption?
No, that was part of the discussion. I mean, it increased water consumption a little bit, but I mean, both water and sewer have great capacity.
Yeah. they're
So
not-
it's
they're
not straining the system at
They're
all.
not gonna irrigate much up there.
No,
Much land.
but that it might increase consumption by 4 or 5%.
4 or 5%.
Yeah.
140 units.
Yeah, it's that like 350 people or
350 people. So it's about, 8% up and 7% up in.
yeah, but these aren't people that are irrigating anything. It's purely house water,
Yeah.
so it's below. Yeah.
We know they don't have a lot of that.
Yeah, whatever it is, but the
I don't even think there's.
population in this town is just, it's a conversation for another time. I mean, it's been flat for 40 years. Just has not changed.
Okay, so things we need to know. We need to know for sure that some people on the pond. We need a better guess about the timing of this PFAS. Block all that Lincoln Street.
That won't be a guess, we'll know soon enough.
Well, we'll know at
Is
the
that-
end of the
that-
year.
That boom may just come down on us and there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think our recommendation regardless is shut down Lincoln Street well.
Well, then we'd have forced conservation. That'd be interesting.
No, I mean, our
Yeah,
plan for the town of Manchester over the next 5 years or whatever. Does not include water from Lincoln Street well.
That would be, yeah, and Scott can probably tell us whether we could ignore, tell people they can ignore things, just respond to the gradual implementation of conservation measures and rates. And if we need to draw down gradually a bit. I don't know, we have to, somebody has to do the arithmetic, it's a hydrologist, and tell us how much cushion we have if we actually said, we're not gonna filter Lincoln Street, we're gonna close it.
Right, safe yield of gravelly pond.
Yeah.
Right, that was your first thing.
And how it would get us over a transition period where we might be using more than the safe yield.
do we have, I mean, we have a certain,
I don't understand that.
Right now, we're using probably more than Gravely can support. Between the unallocated water and the lack of conservation.
I
So
see,
we
we
just-
need some
We just
conservation.
Off the tap at the Lincoln Street well, we're gonna start drawing down Gravely. And the question is, can we do that for a year without imperiling our whole system? So will Gravely buy us a cushion, so to speak, to start implementing these conservation moves, and rate changes?
Yes.
So that people will have a chance to change their behavior. Because the alternative is, something like watering bans, except they're gonna be more like dishwashing bans, showering bans.
yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know how
You
you.
enforce that.
It's not gonna happen. I mean, it's not, that's not our goal of happy citizens.
No, that's,
You go to the office and they say, whoa, you must live in Manchester, you haven't showered.
Yeah, people call us extreme ridiculous because we've always had enough water. So now you tell us we have less water than Ipswich, you're lying to us.
right. Yeah, that's not.
is the amount of water that we get to pump, that is a town-wide limit that, that the state gives to us.
There is a.
Not,
Yep.
there is a limit,
There's a yield
but-
maximum from the
but
source.
I don't think it is broken out.
0.52 million gallons per day.
It's
Is that
point
it?
720,000,
Okay.
but I don't think that is broken out by source.
No,
So they don't care,
no.
they just know that's the number,
Mm,
so we don't have to,
Lincoln Street well has a. maximum.
Yeah, we gotta check. with
that's
Jeff
my,
on
that's
that.
the question I've got.
It's true, we might not, if you're incorrect, we might not just be able to throw it.
Throw it all on
gravelly.
gravelly, because they'll say you're exceeding your pumping, capacity. These are this is what it is for, where's Manchester? Yeah, 720,000.
Okay.
And right now, I mean, we get close to that in the summer. See, that's the one thing that Chuck emphasized is that is annualized,
Right.
okay? And so during the summer, we're up close to 720, maybe even more than that. But on an annual basis, is way below that. In the summer, we're not even 500,000, much less 720,000.
Yeah, and what we need to remember, we need to ask him what that is. Is that a gravelly limit?
Well, that's
Or
a
is that
town.
some, is that some like, doesn't make sense to me that that would be like some per capita, limit. Those don't exist, I don't think, do they?
No, it's a total daily.
I don't know how.
Why are they
Why,
imposing?
why did they give us 720? I don't know what 720 is based on.
It's in the
It's got,
summertime report for Hamilton.
yes, on that,
gotta be-
the dew point or whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Gotta be a draw from gravel. We're speculating, we gotta figure that out because we might not be able to draw as much.
Fuel maximums I've seen are on public wells. But there must be one.
No, but it- no.
reservoir.
Chuck has said what John said, that we approach that limit at times, and I don't know what defines that
Yeah,
limit.
Yeah,
Lincoln-
how did the state come up with 720,000?
We can exceed it.
It must be on our treatment plant. I thought it was on our gravelly treatment plant, or am I wrong? Am I making that
Because,
up?
because half of our water's not going through the treatment plant. It's just coming right out of Lincoln.
Yeah, so we need to pin that down.
But all of that is total to get to the 720. So, yeah, so this is an important factor in our speculation that let's just shut down Lincoln.
If it's 720. And we transfer that usage to 100% gravelly,
Right, right.
It's 100% out of gravel.
can we, or is it reduced?
Yeah, you don't,
You know, and I don't know, at some point, well, sometimes gravelly is providing 100% of our water,
Right,
you know, it's in the winter.
but again, it's the annual average.
Yes, again, this is an annual average, and I don't know if they want that 720, if that's like a rolling average the last 3 months, or if it's at the end of the year, average out all of your days and tell me what the number is, and it better be less than 720. But I know, you know, in the summer,
It's a roller coaster.
we're around 720, I mean, we're up there,
Yeah, you may exceed it. Do.
and may exceed it.
Yeah.
And I don't think the state has a problem exceeding it, they just know that you've got to be less than that number, but our numbers in general, I think, are running around 6 or less. We're in the 5s, 500 to 600,000. Yeah, I think it's more closer to 500,000.
So,
Gravelly,
yeah, there are maximum capacities, approved daily withdrawal. That's what it is.
okay,
So we have a total approved withdrawal of 0.93 million gallons per day.
at about 0.72, that's the number,
Yeah,
that's the number I've got.
right now it's allocated 120,000 gallons from Gravelly, 430,000 gallons from the Round Pond wells. And that's just one. And 380,000 from Lincoln Street. So in theory, we do pretty far short, we're only 550,000.
Lincoln Street, well, it's got a lot,
Yeah.
you know, 380.
Gravelly Pond does not.
Right. And that reflects what you observed at the very beginning of our process, because they have almost no surface water sources. Just runoff, no big streams running in there.
To me, we need to drill another well somewhere in the Gravelly Pond area. That
Well,
aquifer wise was not a hindrance, but was an addition.
make up Maroney's well.
Right,
The one-
or use one of
The
them.
one we neglected to maintain.
Now, is Scott going to give us, he's working on a report in terms of the flows associated with this aquifer, right? And I don't know when we're getting, is that like getting that in January or
Right.
something?
Well, we should have some numbers next month, but he's.
You know, I'm just curious, you know, Lincoln Well and Gravelly, we're all in the same aquifer.
Right.
Okay, now I realize it's a good distance apart.
Basin.
No, I don't
Same
know,
base.
so that we can say that for sure.
Well, that's why I want this report. I want to see arrows saying this is where all this water is going. And if Lincoln Well has a problem, if, you know, where did this problem come from? And is it eventually going to find its way in Gravelly? Maybe it's 20 years, but I don't know.
Let's think about what we've been presented from Scott, in that, those graphics around Gravelly Pond and
Yes.
its deposits.
It showed that, yeah.
It's not at all clear where Gravelly is getting its water from.
We got these temperature things. In terms of where it's entering Gravelly, we kind of know. But where that's
We kind of
coming,
know it's 6 feet below the max surface,
Yeah.
right? We don't know at 20 feet below. We don't know if it's coming from the north in that.
Center of the pond.
We don't know where.
yeah, and I don't-
It's not getting all that. Well, I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it's not getting in water from anywhere else. That'd be pretty weird that it's all coming from the Hamilton old dump. I imagine it's got to be getting filled up below from other areas, and we're not going to get that information from what we have.
The
with
testing
Scott.
we're doing now.
Yeah, there's no way we're gonna get that information. To me, I'm envisioning underground aquifers springing up in the bottom of Gravelly that maybe come from the northwest or something.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a concern about the Tobacco Woods project.
Exactly.
Right up on the corner there.
Exactly.
Or maybe
That was our next best guess as to where some water is coming from. So as we're as we've tasked Scott now, we're never going to know where the gravelly pond water is coming
We're still
from.
going to try to do a groundwater map, but it's gonna be based on some conjecture. Because
Yes.
the number of wells he'd have to put in to really nail this down is large.
Yes, and if we look at that, it'd be a stretch to think that it was coming from Heron Pond up there off Southern Ave
Yeah.
or Sawmill Brook coming down that way. So to connect those two, to connect Gravelly over on the other side of Route 6, exit 16 with Sawmill Brook and Lincoln Street. You're saying then that,
The long.
you're saying then that Gravelly Pond is getting water coming from the southeast up to Gravelly. It does
I
not
don't get the
seem,
impression that that's the flow direction.
no,
It's really
Thus,
coming
they're
from
not
the
connected.
northeast.
maybe, that.
That was,
Thus, they're not, my only point here is they're not connected, I don't think. They're either not connected or we're not gonna know if they're connected. To drill a well like using Round Pond well. All indications are it does not impact Lincoln Street well at all.
yeah, no. that's
So
correct.
drilling another well in that area or using an existing well likely would have no impact.
On Lincoln.
Yeah.
Here's a big question, which is, what's the best way to try a balloon this with the select board?
In terms of recommendations or,
Well, I think it's important to give them an idea that we're headed, so they can say, wait, stop, here's the 5 reasons we're not gonna do that. Or they can say, interesting, tell me more, go do your homework.
are you talking about strictly, really the idea about closing Lincoln Street well
Yeah,
and,
and tying it to the conservation goal.
and tying it to the conservation? I think that has to be a concept, and I think it probably would be wise that our recommendations are circulating around this as being the ultimate goal. All of the recommendations that we've got, and we'll have, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 when we're all done here. But the ultimate goal is moving in that direction.
Your first question there is gonna be, well, why do we want to shut that down? It's a source of water. Oh, save $10 million. Can we turn it back on if we need to? I mean, that's what you're going to,
Yeah,
That you can hear back.
yeah.
yeah, you can turn it back on for $10 million anytime.
And maybe more if you.
Well, by that
By
time,
then it could be 15.
If you
yes.
discontinue it.
The well on School Street that we haven't used, right? That's not certified anymore, right?
Mhm.
If we recertified that, would that volume be in addition to what we're allotted now? Or,
Yeah,
so it would be in addition to
well, I
that?
mean, it's up to the state
State, whether they have to
hydrology.
decide that. In other words, are you saying?
Back to the question Jeff and John were
If-
talking about.
If you start School Street and shut down Lincoln, or are you gonna put it in addition to?
Well, it depends on what the answer is. If they say
I think that's what the state's gonna ask,
you can substitute, school for Lincoln,
and I really don't know how all of this works at the state level. If you go to the state, and say, hey, we're shutting down one of our wells.
because you're making us.
For any of a number of reasons, they're gonna say why, and is why leading to a comment that they may say, no, you can't do that? Or do we have pretty much control over this? I don't know.
No. But more wells is better.
Yeah.
And by the way, I just thought of something. I mean, it could be that shut down Lincoln Street well 2 years from now or next year, or I don't know. 10 years from now, there might not be PFAS in there. If the turf is gone and we're not putting bad stuff on, I don't know.
Wait. It could be, it couldn't, it couldn't be, I don't know.
We don't know where
We
it's
don't
coming from.
We don't know where it's coming from.
No,
I'm just saying that the possibility is there
Yeah.
that it might have less PFAS in a decade or two.
But to your point, Peter, yes, I mean, we're shutting down Lincoln Well because you're making us shut it.
Because you're not drawing the water. Is that
Hey,
why
you're the one that put together the cutoffs. All we're doing is testing the stuff.
Yeah.
And you don't like the numbers and we don't like the numbers. And so,
My brother offered to have the He knows, he works the EPA, he knows a woman who's the regional PFAS administrator. And he says, when this law comes through in December, January,
Popularity.
if you want her to come to the Board of Health, 'cause they're gonna slam the Board of Health first, was my understanding. And explain everything, she'll do it by Zoom, or she'll come to town for you, I can set up an appointment. That might be something you all wanna join.
This would be, yes. This would be directly relevant to what.
John, would it be smart to trial balloon this?
Yes.
In December with
Yes.
So do you think it's best to go to the whole task force first and
Yeah,
see
yeah,
what
it should
their
be the
thing,
task force.
their thinking is before you try balloon it with the select?
Yeah, and the select board doesn't have to be in December, it could be in January, one of the January meetings, they're not gonna hold us to anything, but I do think we need to plug them in on, in general, what the goal is. So that they know the direction that we're moving in.
So if somebody says, why do you want to shut down Lincoln Street Well? Our answer is,
It's the most cost-effective way to make sure we all have safe drinking water for the next 50 years.
because of PFAS.
Really, it's a PFAS driven,
Right. Or we don't have any
you
choice.
know, and because of that, conservation has to play a role
Right.
here, because if without that, we're gonna have a tough time having gravel
Yeah,
beat up.
wait, nudge, we've been
Right.
living beyond our means, even though it doesn't look that way, we've been living beyond our means for decades. It's time for us to.
I wouldn't say
Find
beyond
another
our
source
source
of
we
water.
had the means, we've had the,
Source
always had the
of water
means,
through
we've been living
discussion.
beyond what we should have been. But we have the water.
Then I'm gonna say, find me another source of water. You know, get me another round pond well up that way somewhere.
And we'll all say in one voice, for them.
No, I'd
They
say,
just had
I'd say drill it.
there's an article in the paper where about 6 towns went to Quabbin to see if what they
You're
could
the North
get.
Shore,
Yeah, and this is Wilmington and places up like that.
Yeah,
And their initial estimate was $12 billion to bring the water to,
$12 billion, this
yeah,
is Gold Line Pipe, what's
I
going on?
have no
here? That's
idea.
a lot of money.
It wasn't 12 million, I'll tell you.
No.
The answer is, what you'll be told is drill other wells up near Gravelly and fill it up more.
right, and the problem is, as the Dewberry report revealed, is that the state is very concerned
Yeah.
about the depletion of that particular sub-basin. I think Manchester, that's what I mean by living beyond our means. We don't know it, but people from the outside are looking at us and saying, you guys are wasting precious resources, which by the way, aren't in your town.
Yeah, I was just gonna
Yeah.
say,
Primarily.
drilling other wells, you know,
You
you're gonna have a.
You have the foresight to buy it up 25 years ago.
Well, we could sell it.
Right, we might not get approved to drill another.
Yeah.
Well, no, and that's,
Yeah.
Chuck made that point on a couple of our meetings, he just said, you can go there, but they're not gonna let you drill another one.
The state will say, first, we want to see compliance with
Hamilton will say it too.
compliance with summer, well. You go, it's like the Wizard of Oz, I'll grant all these things for you, but first you gotta go kill the wicked witch of the west and bring me a broomstick.
Well, but we're drilling really in Manchester proper.
No, well,
It's borderline there.
that's my question. Would we be allowed to drill on the property we own in Hamilton? We'd have to get approved by Hamilton
Yeah.
and they'd probably shoot us down.
I think that would be a problem.
I thought it was taking it from them, they
So
would.
what, you mean,
They're in a different
I
aqua.
want to fill up Gravelly.
what besides their conservation commission would have jurisdiction?
I don't know. It just seems to be that we'd have to get permission from.
Yeah, I think their Concom would have to say yes, because we'd certainly be in a wetland or a pond.
Who-
Do we
If
just
I wanted-
own water rights or do we
We own
own
property.
land?
Both.
Because I know we own,
We bought the roughly 250 acres, then we went to the state legislature and got perpetual water. So we did.
So we have,
We did the full Monty. I have the document.
but the answer, so how does this work then? If we own that land, how come we pay Hamilton taxes for our water treatment plant?
So,
land. It's.
You pay taxes on your house, don't you, in Manchester?
What's that?
You pay taxes on your house.
I know.
It's your land and
That's what I'm saying. evidently, we don't own the land. Because if we own the land,
Well, no, but you own your
Oh,
property here in Manchester, but you pay taxes to Manchester.
A property owner
In Manchester,
Manchester is a property owner in Hamilton.
Right.
right?
We pay taxes.
It's
not part of
it's within
Manchester.
That's what we should recommend. We'll annex that 250 acres.
Why?
I don't know.
we will have.
Say for
we will have-
1,000.
For people to argue about.
We'll have a small war, the Manchester Hamilton War.
If I wanted to drill
I don't know
a
where that war
well,
is right now. It's kind of a dicey relationship with those guys.
if I wanted to drill a well on my property
Yes, there
right
are.
now, who would have to approve
Just
that?
look these.
Would
up.
help, would help.
There is a town, in fact, there's a town well policy in every town in Massachusetts. It's driven by building code and state regs, but it's administered by the Board of Health.
Can you deny that
Sure.
Yes,
for selfish reasons? I
No.
don't want you to take my water.
Recall.
no. I mean, well. The current board follows. The law, whether we believe it or not.
Under what circumstances would the board reject a well?
Too close to a septic system, too close to
Fine.
a
Too
building.
Too close to the road, too close to the,
These are all standard things.
all standard things,
Too close to a town water supply?
System.
no,
No, you are.
I'm on Vine Street. I'm close to the Lincoln Street well. I might be within 200 feet.
Zone A is for,
Could I drill? Okay, so
well, the Board of Health would have to meet the standards, and you, if you're not near a wetland.
He can drill within zone A?
then you're not in.
okay, let's say.
Oh, you're outside, you're just
Let's say
outside,
I'm
you're
in zone A.
outside,
Let's
you're
say I'm in
outside, not by a lot,
The
but
high school wants to drill a well.
then they'd have a problem.
I'm thinking from Hamilton's point of view, would they let us drill another well, 1,000 feet away from gravelly?
I think we'd have to cut them in. We have to.
Now, if I'm Hamilton, I'd say
We do the deal with them.
they want some,
No, now you're talking about a complicated system.
Yeah, it
pipes
is.
And all that, that's not gonna get approved by Manchester. I'm simply asking. I want to supplement Gravelly Pond with more water because I'm shutting off Lincoln Street.
So the Board of Health in Hamilton would have to approve the well on their standards, which are pretty consistent across town. But it's out in the woods, so it's unlikely to,
Probably not within a zone A of one of their wells.
no, actually, you can have a well field, that's allowed for municipal uses. That's how Hamilton generates its water, is a field of wells. 7 of them, I think, in the Audubon swamp,
Yes, and as long as we don't infringe on that,
no.
yeah.
as long as we don't. I'm trying to get the realism of us supplementing Gravelly Pond with another well. That's what I'm trying to get
is,
to.
could
Maybe
we,
it's realistic.
I think the big thing to overcome is state permission and cost, because Eli's rough guess was that even waking up the well that we inadvertently let get discontinued at the state level would be a $1 to $2 million cost. Because the bureaucracy is intense at the state level for testing certification.
could we increase the pumping from Round Pond? Or is that gonna deplete Round Pond too quickly?
Question for Chuck, he dropped it way down in the drought,
Yeah, by choice,
yeah. But I think he also.
but I don't know what Round Pond can support.
Where does the piping go from the well on School Street? It's already in place, right?
The one up by the MECT land
Yeah.
near Shingle Place Hill.
I don't know. Good question. Is it the one that lost?
It was a test well. wasn't
That's
it?
the one that Gloucester used.
Yeah, they just piped on surface.
They went along 128.
They used the same type of piping they did on School Street for the water.
Yeah.
It ran down the side of Route 28.
Reservoir up there.
Yeah.
That's
No, that was well before that.
60s.
Yeah.
Because I mean, $1 to $2 million is a lot cheaper than 10 to 12,
Yes,
And
assuming it doesn't have PFAS in it.
1 to 2 million for, to
To
get.
take it
approved
resurrect,
and
to
everything.
resurrect the well.
To resurrect it.
Resurrected, does that include pumping it to Gravelly? No.
no, that was just the.
No, that was
the
just.
state.
I mean, just to get it so you can use it, right?
I mean, I have, again, I have things, they're all around Gravelly. And then there's work with the higher end users. I have one, what's the safe yield of Gravelly Pond? It includes all those things we talked about.
Yep.
How much cushion is there? You know, can the treatment plant handle it? What's the 720,000 gallon limit? Safe yield of gravelly pond. 2. Well, maybe, well, okay. 2, shut down Lincoln Street well, for the reasons that we talked about. 3, once we do that, I want to drill another well to fill gravelly better, if we need to. I want to fill gravelly better. I'm doubting we can take it all out of the round pond well. If so, we wouldn't need to drill another one. I'm guessing we have to drill another one. But fill gravelly is 3. And 4, and these are not in order of priority necessarily, work with the higher end users to A, drill your own wells, B, work with greenscapes for a more efficient landscape, and C, find leaks.
Okay, that's good.
Are there other things though besides?
I have just. Can the Lincoln Street well be restarted, under what conditions? What reception do we expect from the largest users? Can we predict that? And how are we gonna trial
You
this?
can't
and
predict
sell
that.
it to the select board and then the town?
Right.
I'm assuming that
Okay.
what we're talking about is select board decisions, maybe some.
Yeah.
Board of Health decisions, and they're telling the.
Well, the select
DPW
board has to buy into the fact that that the approach here is meritorious.
So this is only a recommendation to them, and then they'll ask us.
So would they go to town meeting on their own discretion, or would they have to go to town meeting and do this stuff?
No, this is all work in progress. You mean in April?
No, if they wanted to implement closing the well.
Well, if it was a $2 million bill to reactivate the
well.
School Street well.
Yeah, I think
that
that's
would
an
have to wind up-
appropriation.
That would be a
That'd have to be,
major
an article.
appropriation.
But how would they handle it if the EPA says you have to close down the well within 6 months because your 2 toxic chemicals are over the limit?
They'd quickly come to us with our best recommendations and then go to the town to approve it.
Although I don't think,
For that or for the selectmen?
Don't know.
I think they give you a lot more lead time.
I think, and I also think you get emergency declaration, you'd be able to.
Yeah, I mean, if you're up there and flirting with or just over the cutoff, they just say, yeah, you gotta do this and you've got 2 years to figure out how you're gonna make this happen.
Yeah, they're not gonna come and
And
say,
say,
they're not
hey,
gonna come and say,
say,
you've
3
got
months.
3 weeks to get this
No,
done.
it's not 3 weeks,
Or
but
even 6 months,
Yeah,
that you just can't get that
I
done.
mean,
Their
just
argument
because
was
it's
the same.
finances in the cities and towns.
there are states now that are saying this is undue burden because the town didn't put food there. And the rebuttal has been, your state already has a limit. You've already adjusted to it. All we're doing is lowering it. So you've already addressed that issue, so be quiet and keep going.
Work it out, yeah.
By the way, I don't think the School Street well is any help to us because we'd have to lay piping to go to
How
Gravelly
we get the
Pond.
water treatment, yeah.
I mean, it's not
We
gonna
have
happen.
to
It's
build a treatment facility on the banks of Sawmill Brook there.
better to.
I mean, why did we have the well there to begin with? Where did it go?
I know exactly where it is.
No, where did they pump the water?
Yeah, along 128 Gloucester, yeah.
So they
For
drilled the well just for Gloucester?
I don't think we drilled the well, I think
They did.
Gloucester drilled.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
pumped it and they put it in their res.
Says Gloucester, hey, guys, want to drill another well?
It was back in the 60s. It was a little bit easier.
It was a little simple, then it was.
So this well is it right on the edge of School Street kind of, or?
Yes, it's right by the parking lot of
Right by the-
Wilderness Conservation Area.
Very, very much.
Yeah, I mean, so piping, that's really aggravation.
You'd have to pipe that across MECT land.
I think you'd go down School Street, then go along one
No, we
twenty-eight.
go through go through the woods
Oh,
of,
that's-
Oh, you wouldn't want to do
I
that.
think that's tough. I think going down School and then going along one twenty-eight and then coming back up, Pond.
you dig all the way?
You have to cross Sawmill Brook twice to run that thing and then go.
You're
through
saying
the swamp. It would never
You-
fly.
Okay, so, yes, I think it would never fly compared to drilling a well over near Gravelly Pond.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
It's a second choice.
The big question about the state standard is how did they get from the individual components of our system?
Yes, that's another question.
3,000 gallons to a approved combined
Wait,
720, and what's the
Right.
implication of that if we shut the Lincoln Street well.
That's a Chuck Dam question. Yeah.
This is out of the Dewberry
This
report,
is out
right?
of Dewberry.
Yeah, I
Would-
recognize
would
that.
you-
So this is only counting one well. I know we have two active wells here in Round Pond.
In Round Pond,
Yeah. Isn't the second one usable?
What is this? What is the overall topic here? What is
This
that
is
called?
the WMA report for Hamilton on, it's actually the whole Ipswich River Basin on alternatives for adequate water. It's on this, released this summer. So they,
Approved withdrawal.
yeah, they looked closely at the possibility of Hamilton sharing Manchester's water. Because
Right.
they pointed out Manchester has too much water,
Manchester has too much.
even for our profligate.
Right.
And then they pointed out that the state looks has a very dim view of the way we have set up our infrastructure and our usage statistics, which are,
What do you mean, the profligate aspects of our usage?
the very high unallocated water,
Yes, they don't like that. We don't like that.
the very high overall gallons per capita per year, and the very high summer bump.
Yeah, all of these are things
We've gotta
that,
hit all three. We've got the
just say, we've gotta work our conservation.
Right.
And none of the citizens, essentially, none of the citizens know that.
No, they don't. That's because we don't have anything in our billing that says this is what's going on. And, you know, you can put inserts and say, this is how we're doing relative to Hamilton, all of these others. Or 2 times, 3 times more. This is ugly.
But due to the foresight of some incredible people more than a century ago, it hasn't been a problem that anybody has had to encounter. We've had to, put in some watering bans, but that's it.
Imagine if they didn't buy that, we would be.
Well,
God knows where the wells would
I
be.
don't know where we'd probably be in the western woods.
We'd probably be sucking up.
You
that
blocked
School
it.
Street, School Street well.
Yeah.
Okay, folks.
Yeah.
Progress.
I think so. We have kind of an overall direction.
Some work to do. So. Maybe we should get the notes and then have a
And then,
phone call to see if we can
Connect
divide up
again.
these tasks. Some of this is Scott's plate. Some of it is, finding out the ins and outs of state stuff, which Chuck may know, or you may have to, use your.
oh, with regard to, hey, is this gravelly story really
Yeah,
realistic at all?
Right.
how would the state look at a very significant change in our,
Yeah, we're going from having plan A and plan B to have just
Yeah.
plan A.
What about this working with the high users is this a recommendation of this committee not to start happening for another year? Or is this happening like 3 months from now? It's kind of happening, you're kind of meeting.
What do you mean, talking to the high users?
Yes.
Yeah.
You said you're gonna go talk to some.
shamelessly capitalizing on some friendships.
You gotta do that right now.
Don't talk to Maury and Sarah, right? They're not heavy users because they're very environmentally conscious. You may know, or you may not, but if you ride a bicycle around Proctor and Masconomo, there's only one house that dries all of their laundry outdoors.
Great.
The Cratons. Even in November. So that's an easy one,
You
and
dry it, it's like that when you bring it in.
Yeah,
put it on the table.
You don't wear it right away. that's for sure.
So. Is,
That might be all of Manchester, by the way, not just.
yeah,
are we? Is the water task force going to actively work with these users over the next 6 to 9 months before we're done? As opposed to recommending.
I
that we're
think you
going
have to,
work
you have
with
to
them?
speak with a couple before
we
you
don't
say
know.
that's gonna be a
So We're
strategy.
definitely gonna speak with a couple. in the
And
next
say,
couple
is this
months, and then we're
realistic
gonna
or,
go forward. Okay,
Yeah, if his health is adequate, I want to talk to Ernst on Mitch.
Oh, on
'Cause
Crow
he's-
Island
He's
there.
a huge user of water, but he's also very
I think he's at the top of the list.
conscientious guy. He's, you know, he's in the top 5.
I think the two priorities are finding out how to conserve from the top users if possible, and trying to find another source around Gravelly. Those are the two big priorities, right?
My bet is that some of these big users, since they don't pay their own bills, they don't even know how big their water bill is.
So that's the argument.
Oh, he's here,
And I bumped into my
he's here.
predecessor on the Concom, Steve Demeter,
Yeah.
who was mowing his lawn before Thanksgiving on his tractor. That's how long.
yeah, I've been doing that also.
And he's, you know, he's another guy who uses a fair amount of water.
Who's this? A Demeter?
Demeter, yeah.
I went through, yes, I saw the name on here.
It's I think his son is on there, but he has. Trust. The Eleanor Trust. Anyhow. People like that who, you know, who won't. Slam down the phone when I suggest we need their advice about water.
And, well, you know, I mean, the Creightons will be interesting. They're not on the top user list.
No, they're conscious.
They're not. I mean, I looked, I went all the way down to tier 4, 5, and 6. At the tier 4, and I looked at all of the names, and I did not see their name on that. But Ernst he's on here.
I think it'd be good to start with Maury. Because,
Well, Maury can open doors for you.
and Maury will also. Help us not screw up when we go to the.
Well, he's
other
also on,
people in the-
he's also on the finance
Finance,
committee,
yep.
and the finance committee has a dog in this fight.
That's true.
Because if you start telling people to not use water, they gotta know how that's affecting our bottom line. here.
Well, yeah, if we tell them that the rates are gonna go up.
Well, I mean, that's the compensate, but we don't know how that's gonna affect the,
Yeah, I mean, if you meet with Maury, I would like to be there, if that makes sense.
Nice.
And I know him
Yeah.
pretty well.
Yeah, I think you should be very. Any other suggestions? I mean, I've worked with some of, Paul,
Other people.
the garden club ladies.
Can I see the list?
Oh, I know, John Judge. Not a. terribly
no,
heavy
he's not
water
on
user.
the, he's not a water user, not in the top.
Not a terribly heavy water user, but he's a really savvy environmentalist.
Isn't his house only about a year old?
It's.
No, it's been redone. I know him pretty well.
I'm
It's
just
a- it's a
saying,
bit
is his,
slowed down.
is his water usage that we have on here reflective of his current water usage, or has it changed?
He's not even on the list.
I don't think he's on the list.
He's not.
Is he, he might not be on the list from 2 years ago, but he could be, his situation might have changed, that's what I'm suggesting, I don't know.
Yeah, when was this list? Was this list from 2000? He was not a
I'm
homeowner
not
here
sure which
then.
one that is, but yeah.
That's my point.
This was
So
this was
they-
sent out. Yeah, I don't know. I just printed out the top users and
Well, I appreciate what you guys are putting into this.
scanned.
John's around, he's out walking usually, so.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, who else was that? Can't
You
click my
can
name.
certainly get an environmentalist point of view with John.
Yeah, no question. Well, Bill Cross.
Dr. Bill?
Yeah, I know.
Bill is on the list. So when I say on the list, I think I printed it out. He's into tier 4.
Yeah, he's a user.
He's not up in the 6 or even the 5 area, but he's into tier 4.
And one advantage of Bill Cross is that he knows everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it
and
does.
he knows what their strengths and weaknesses are. So if he played any kind of role. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. That's
Hmm.
18.
Is everybody set to adjourn?
I think so.
All right. Meeting adjourned.
You just squeeze that in.